Hey guys, found a much easier example. How to harvest the chaga mushroom, what it will look like, and some of its characteristics. Number one, you can see I'm in a forest here, and it's snowy, and we're in the north. This is New Hampshire's lakes region. These typically grow more in a northern climate, but they might be in some mountainous regions in Virginia and whatnot, but it's more of a northern thing, okay? Now here, we got a birch tree. Yes, it is overcast, but this is a birch tree. Here is kind of where I have previously harvested a chaga mushroom before. And now, this one looks pretty weak. I didn't have my axe with me and stuff, but I'm just gonna, so when it's extended out like this, sometimes they come out, like that. It's like a horn, but they call it a conch. Now this, I think I'm just gonna be able to get lucky here and manhandle it off. Beautiful, beautiful. Some shit will scatter on the ground. That's okay. Put it to the earth, okay? In fact, Native Americans sometimes would actually throw some tobacco down. But this little piece here is a good example of the size you want to put in to make some tea, okay? Now, I want you to notice something here, okay? It was in like this, so it's black on the outside and kind of more this orangey color on the inside, okay? What that is, it's a ton of minerals, tons of minerals, okay? The orange is manganese, the black is zinc. Now, chaga has a ton of minerals, and this was a bigger chunk. So generally when you're harvesting one, you can use a saw, but if you just break it off like that, it'll naturally produce. So I think I have the other piece of chaga that came off this, and that might take 30 years or so. That can take up to 30 years, longer, 50 years, 70 years. And that is energy accumulation. That's nutrition it's pulling from the ground, okay? This is where this tree had some type of damage, or there's, a cavity in there, okay? Again, this is not on every birch tree. This is on maybe one of 100, one of 200 birch trees. Just this particular area that I found has a lot of them. Chaga mushroom has been used. It's more of a Nordic Eastern type thing, popular in Finland, Siberia, places like that. It's become more popularized, but once I show you how to make this, you're gonna have a coffee-like drink without the caffeine, and then you can mix a little bit of instant coffee. But this stuff is, like I said, it's the highest antioxidant thing on the planet. It also can kind of make you black. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, it contains very, very, very high amounts of melanin. Melanin is what makes people black, basically. Well, why would someone do that or care about it or whatnot, or is this racist? No, it's going to act as a sunscreen, basically. In fact, you can even put this on your body and use it as a sunscreen. I've even put some in like a bath before, just playing around with it. People put the water and the tinctures on. I gotta go downhill here. Whoa, it's deep. People put the water, the tea, on rashes, on just anything. It is so good for you. And this cannot be grown in the lab. It's rare. Okay? It takes a long time for it to grow. Mostly people want to harvest this in the wintertime. Like now, when it's cold. I've harvested it at other times of the year, and I was pretty much all right with doing that. So when you see it, always leave some on the tree, and it will grow back. But you ain't going back there for like, another 5-10 years. Like I said, this takes a long time to grow. It's not a mushroom that comes up every year. It's a 10-year slow growth, an 8-year slow growth, 20 years. They can be quite big sometimes. There's debates on whether it's helping to heal the tree or decompose the tree. I'm not going to get too bogged down into the science of it here. I think there's other channels that have done that. I can maybe list some in the description. But the type of energy that it will give you is not a caffeine high. People will mix it with coffee. Okay, that's the way that it's most commonly consumed. And the type of energy that it gives you is, later in the day, you might clean out that closet that you've been putting off. You might call someone you haven't talked to in a long time. The way that it works is actually quite strange. It is not a psychedelic mushroom. You don't trip. It's not psychoactive as far as we know. However, it decalcifies the pineal gland, which has a lot to do with dreaming, spirituality, in combating the fluoride, the chemical crap that we consume constantly. It counteracts this. This is an ancient medicine. In fact, the oldest person found on the planet, I believe they call him the Iceman, but it's a guy from the Swiss French Alps. Hikers found him. He had been frozen for God knows how long, a really long time. And what did he have on his belt? He had one of these, okay, birch polypore, and I'll explain why a little later. Probably some type of sharpened rock to harvest shit, cut branches, shit like that. And he had chaga mushroom. Well, why would someone have that? Well, it's one of the very first way man learned how to transport fire. So this is essentially almost like wood. In fact, it kind of has a wooden taste to it. And when it's dry enough, in order for me to like it can transport fire basically. So it can transport embers, and it will burn for a long time. So this is still wet because I just harvested it. But if I let this dry, and generally the way that you let it dry ideally is in the sunlight, particularly maybe with this part facing up, it'll help absorb vitamin D, including this mushroom. So if I brought it home to harvest it, dry it out, I put it like this. And we'll show you how to process this later and make the band-aids and whatnot. These are each from birch trees, and they're each highly medicinal, antibacterial, antifungal, strangely enough, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, just any of the antis that you can think of that are good. These will help you do it. it can be quite enjoyable to go find one. It's pretty satisfying, actually. And you don't have to live necessarily way in the north. It just happens to be easier. So let's walk back to my truck here and talk with you guys. So when it comes to working with mushrooms, there's a lot, and people are intimidated by it. Again, I'm not an expert at it or a doctor or anything like that. It's just kind of for fun, learning how to make YouTube videos. You're going to put these in your crock pot. You're going to get the crock pot pretty hot. And you're going to leave it in your crock pot for a couple hours. There's many debates on how to cook this stuff and everything. So what I do is I get my crock pot. I get it pretty warm, hot. We're cooking these mushrooms, essentially. So you're going to cut them and break them into smaller pieces. So you get more, water surface area, however you want to call that, okay? And then you just come and stir it around now and then. And then you drink that for about, 2 days or so, and you just keep adding water to it, let's say 24 hours, okay? You just keep, scooping some of that water out, have it in tea, mix it with, you can use it as a broth. People usually do mix it with some type of sweeteners, because these tend to be on the bitter side, particularly the white one, the birch polypore. Bitter is good for the body. The body has more taste receptors and whatnot for bitter than it does for sweet by a lot. Because bitters and things like that, they help break down food. They help kill more germs. That's why medicine often tastes bitter, because it's a bitter. So now, and you can add lemon. You can make this tea however you want. You can have it hot. You can have it iced. Generally, you can store it in the fridge. You don't want to let it sit too long. These are a living food. So you don't want it to wait too long in the fridge. 3 days max. I suppose you can maybe freeze some to ice cubes and make it an ice cube if you wanted. I'm not sure, but I think I've done that before. So if you're feeling sick, these really, really help feed the immune system. During the pandemic, I was consuming these quite a bit, and I never got sick. In fact, I really don't get sick that much. Do I have this stuff every day? No. Is there powders and coffees and things that are already made now? They're becoming popular? Yeah. But if you make it your own, this piece here that I found on that size, you can make 40 gallons of tea from it. You can keep using it. Because what we're doing, what tea is basically, it's a hot water extraction. Now you can put it in a bottle of vodka or brandy or something and do what's called an alcohol extraction, which is what tinctures are. Most people tend to like it as a tea. The reason you're using a crock pot is there's two schools of thought. Some people boil the hell out of it for a long time, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Some people get it boiled first and then do a slow lower heat extraction. There's many schools and thoughts and ways to do it. I like making mine strong. I want it to look black like freaking motor oil when I do it, because I know that I'm extracting the most out of this. Like it does look ugly. It's an ugly looking mushroom, but they call this diamond in the forest, guys. This is this is a sacred medicine. It really is. There's a lot of correlations between a lot of diseases in this, you know, helping combat it. So I'll just leave it at that, but I can show you guys another video on how to, you know, put in the crock pot and play with that birch polypore mushroom, which you can make band-aids out of. And that's a tea as well. And that one's a little bit less complicated to use. And you can sharpen your knife with it, or axe head, or maybe even bow and arrows and shit like that. Once that is dry enough, on a microscopic level, it really helps almost clean a knife to a degree, like sand it or polish it, but increase how sharp it is. So I thought this would be fun out on this snowy day in the middle of the woods, and have some fun talking about, you know, legal shrooms. You know, they're pretty powerful things. Thanks, guys.